My name is Mike and I'm from Harvest Lane Honey. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about beekeeping, and it's going to be very, very basic. We're going to go over some of the terminologies and we're going to go over most of the equipment that's used in beekeeping. So we hope you'll find this interesting. If you have any thoughts about keeping bees, this is a good way to find out a little bit about them, the terminology and things that are in the hive, and what to expect a little bit from the equipment that you might get. We're here at Cal Ranch, and they carry a full line of our products, and a full line of products that will help you in your beekeeping efforts. The whole class will take about 35 to 40 minutes, and we should have a good time here today. So let's get started. Again, we're from Harvest Lane Honey, and this is what we're going to talk about today. We are a supplier of beekeeping equipment. All of the wood equipment that is used in the beekeeping process is manufactured in the United States here at our facilities in South Salt Lake in Utah. And we manufacture anything that's a wood product. 100% of it's wood, 100% of it's here in the United States. And our main customer that we try to help get going is the backyard beekeepers, we call them. There's been an extreme uptick in people that want to keep bees. Bees are now being kept in many, many urban areas. In Chicago, in Detroit, in Los Angeles. You're now seeing major cities and places around the country that are allowing bees to be kept in their backyards. I know of cities that allow you to keep up to 3 hives in a small lot in a city block. And if they're kept right, there are usually no problems. But there are things that we'll talk about. This, like I said, is Beekeeping 101. So if you're a professor from a major university in entomology, this might be boring to you. But we'll try and keep it lively. And we're going to talk about all of the products that you'll be using and how they're used and the bees and how you get them and those kind of things. This picture right here exemplifies the product of a beehive. This would be a normal beehive that's is producing honey and that people are keeping care of in their backyard. And we'll talk about everything that's on this stand that you've got here and tell you all about those. But first, let's talk about the most important part of the beehive. The most important one to me is the queen. The queen is emphasizes she takes care of the whole hive. This is the individual with the genetics that she has that will make the quality of the hive and how the hive functions and works. She is the one that's taken care of by all the other folks. The worker is a female, and all of the ones that really do good hard work are females. So I think that ladies out there, pat yourself on the back. These folks really do a great service to us and to their hives, the workers. Now the drone, a little bit bigger than the regular worker, a little bit fatter, it seems like, than the queen. She's fairly elongated. The drone has 2 functions: reproduction, and then in the winter time or towards fall, they like to sit around the hive, eat honey, and watch football. So that's mainly the functions of a drone. Queen bee, a little bit larger than the other bees, a lot longer abdomen. Once she has fertilized her eggs, she'll not go out again out of the hives unless she swarms or leaves the hive. But her abdomen then carries all of the larvae that she's going to produce in her lifetime and go into the hive. You can see the queen in this picture here. She's the one right here in the middle of the picture. You can see the difference between her and the other worker bees that are in these photographs. The queen is developed in a special cell known as a queen cell. And that queen cell is often described as looking like a peanut. And it really does have those characteristics as it's hanging from the part of the hives. If you'll notice this right here, there's a queen cell right there at the bottom of this frame. And a queen will develop within the cell, and this is what she looks like. The queen is fed a special combination of royal jelly, and that's what triggers her, along with the size of the cell, to become a queen. And a pretty fascinating process. Worker bees. These are the ones that go out and you'll see in your yards. They're the ones that are going from pollen plant to pollen plant, on all the different leaves, or excuse me, on different flowers or on the trees or the crops or whatever's in your garden that has pollen in it. These are the ones that do all the work to turn things into honey, the stuff that we like to take from these bees. And we appreciate their efforts. This frame of up from out of the beehive shows what brood looks like when it's in the hive. And you'll see all these black spots is where larvae have already developed and left the cell and have come out into and started their work within the hive. Here you can see some different stages of the larvae. These are smaller ones, but they're not the smallest. They start out very, very small. They're often been described as about the size of a comma on the printed page, and then they start to develop and grow, and they'll get into the bigger ones until at a point the worker bees will cap them off to let them finish their development. Drone, again, this is the male portion of the species, and the main function is to reproduce with the queen. Queen will reproduce with several, be disseminated by several of the drones in a queen. When the queen leaves the hive and she flies out, gets into a big swarm of drones and other queens, and that's where the reproductive stuff goes. Once the drone has mated, all of his parts are pulled out, and so he dies and goes off. Once in a lifetime experience for him. You can see drone cells here at the bottom of this slide, of this red circle. The drone cells are a little bit higher off of the frame of the wax that has been built up, and you'll see that's what develops into a drone of these here. And again, that's all decided by the queen. Now, a lot of folks that are starting to get into beekeeping want to know how they get their bees and what is it that they'll see, or how do they go about getting them. When you get bees, you can either get them in a swarm, you can get them in a package. They vary from 2 pounds to 4 pounds. The most common is about 3 pounds of bees in here. This box right here is a miniature box of bees. There's a queen in there that's been bred and is reproducing inside here. About 5 frames of the wax are in here that they can build up and develop the worker bees and anything else. And this is called a Nucleous. It's a nice way of doing it because the queen's already in there, has been accepted by the workers that are out there, and you can then take all of these frames out, put them in your hives with the queen, and it really is a good way to get it going. These are a little bit more expensive to do. This package here is about 3 pounds, so I estimate about 10,000 bees in here. And you'll also have a queen that's in this box. The queen that's in here did not lay all of these bees. It's a separate queen, usually raised in a queen bank, and then put into this special cage, and with a couple of workers to take care of her. You'll see a little small tab right here by the feeder can, and that's where there's a queen that's attached to the end of that in a small cage. Just a queen, and sometimes a couple of worker bees are in there to take care of her during the transportation. Excuse me. And that's how the bees are transported. If you're lucky enough to be able to do it, a swarm is a great way to find them, because you can come in here to this plant, and if the owner of that plant will allow you to do so, you can clip the main branch that these bees are on and stick them down in a hive box, transport them to where you want to, put your frames in, and you've got a pretty good roaring, good possibility for success with a good swarm. See, there's some of the swarms that we've collected over the years. This was a great one. Cut a little branch there and put it in our box, took it off and had it. This swarm here was in the tree right next to a fast food restaurant, drive-in, where people would come in, and the bees were flying around quite a bit, and the owner of the facility was glad to see us come and ask if we wanted to get rid of the bees. And we were able to take them, and it turned out to be a very, very good hive. Packaged bees again. This just gives you a little more of a close-up. You'll see bees on the outside, and there's a screen mesh here on either side. This can here contains a liquid syrup, or can contain a nougat that's not liquidy but is more soft. And that feeds the bees up in here while they're in transit. And the bee is taken care of by her nursery.
That's how cow ranch does That's how cow ranch does their bees.
Okay. This is how, if you get your bees from Cow Ranch, this is how you're going to get them, is in this kind of a package here. We talked to you about the Nucleous because that's going to be something you might consider in the future. could be offered in the future. It's just a way of starting your hive and getting the queen up to speed with all the laying of the larvae and stuff in the hive, and the queen has been accepted. Should note that this queen here, like I say, did not lay these bees, and she's putting this queen here in this cage here so that the bees that are around her can accept her. And there's usually a small opening at the bottom of that queen cell or queen cage that's in there, and most of the time it's a cork that's in there. You'll have to remove the cork, put a small bit of candy like a marshmallow in there. Then the workers will eat that marshmallow or the candy out of there in about a week's time, a few days maybe, and in that time they've accepted the queen. There is a possibility they won't accept the queen and you'd have to re-queen, but that's very, very, very infrequent that happens. So let's talk now about some of the other terms that you'll get into here. If you see hives like this as you're going through your experience as a beekeeper, the brood pattern is not very consistent like you saw in some of those others. Now just so you know, this is honey up in the corners of this frame here. And this wood is referred to as the frame, and then there's a plastic foundation in here that this wax is being built up on by the bees, so it's called the foundation. And so this is a weak hive that you might look for, and you might be able to help build it up by supplementing their feed. A brood frame, we've already showed you a real good one earlier, but you can see the brood here still, and it's very neat, it's very organized, and it usually occurs right within the center portion of the frame, and you'll have the honey on the edges of it. So this looks like is a pretty good hive with the foundation and the brood that's on there, and they should be getting going really good. Honey frame. Now this is the one that you're all wanting to have at some point in your bee raising probably. These are some pretty good looking honey frames. This one here, great stuff. You can see the flora that they were feeding off back in here. There are some, on the other side there's a lot of gardens by some places that had about an acre's worth of garden over there. But good color, and you can see the differences in color of the honey on these different frames. Let's talk about the hive components and everything that's in the hive and how that's built up. We do have a little saying that we like to, use American lumber. What we want to be able to save the bees and help the bees out, but not kill all of the trees. So we try to be very cognizant and use every bit of the wood that we can. We have some identifying symbols on our products that might help you as a new beekeeper to identify what the different products are and what they're used for. If you see this symbol on the side of a box, it means that this box, whichever in there, is going to be useful in taking care of the things that are in the hive or goes in the hive. This right here will show you that this is a honey box. Honey supers, we call them, are a little more, they're smaller than the big brood boxes, but we'll get into that in a minute. And then anything that's a tool, it's going to have this marking on it. And then if you're going to be looking at harvesting this good stuff, this is what will tell you the tools that are needed for that.